Hey everyone, welcome to Hydrawise Insights from the Field Session 5. This one's going to be pretty good. We got some Wi-Fi troubleshooting, some advanced Wi-Fi troubleshooting. In this session, we are going to dive into the depths of advanced controller or advanced Wi-Fi troubleshooting. And it's going to include navigating IT security and firewalls, which is a big one, poor Wi-Fi signal, hardware, MAC addresses, and hotspots. This webinar is being recorded. So if you have friends that couldn't make it, you got to go, or you suddenly hear a crash or break in the other room, we got you covered. One of the things that I want to point out is this year's promotion, Rev It Up. This is an opportunity for you to earn coins by participating in weekly challenges that you can redeem for Hunter swag, apparel, and you can even risk your coins for entries to monthly big prize drawings. So visit revitup.hunterindustries.com to get started on that. Let's continue on. Let's get this thing kicked off. I want to point out support at hydrawise.com there for you guys, and training.hunterindustries.com for more of these training opportunities and CEU opportunities as well. Now, we got a great group of presenters today. I'm right there second from the left, but we got Anthony Long again on, product manager for Hydrawise. He's waving at you in the webcam. We have a tech services support specialist, Alex Perez. He is our in-house tech support Hydrawise Wi-Fi genius. We got your buddy Kevin Lewis up there that has been doing some really awesome live demos during these webinars. And of course, Mr. Glasses over there, Kevin Battistoni. Kevin, take it away, huh?
You got it. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate the intro. So yeah, if you'll notice, tap that center top of your screen, Alex Perez has joined us, and we called them up. I would say Kevin Lewis and I have with Alex over the last 4 years on the horn resolving connectivity issues, so we thought it's only right that we had him participate, and as you can see from the image, he's down to clown. So we have a good ratio of 2 guys without glasses, 3 with. We'll see where it goes. You could see Arnold, my gato sin pelo, if you don't hablo, that is hairless cat. Without further ado, let's get into it, right? So we're going to talk troubleshooting. And within troubleshooting, there's a couple different elements we're going to take a peek at. First one, you'll recall from last week's session 3, WLAN, wireless local area network, right? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about hardware, meaning your host controller. We're going to talk a little about security, and then we're going to get into hotspots, which is a bit of a gray area because there is not a set cut and dry Hunter, this is how you install a hotspot, right? As you know today, we make the hardware, but unlike ACC Gen 1 or what we're going to see in late April from ACC Gen 2, we don't have an LTE or GPRS, aka cell, option for Hydrawise today. Okay, so there are some ways to MacGyver your way into getting your cloud to the clock when you don't have a Wi-Fi signal. And we're going to show you really some creativity that contractors have shown us, and they're using it to a pretty good degree of success. And then finally, in the end, we're going to add on to the Lewis and Long Q&A and throw Alex into the mix too. So we'll get rolling. So we're navigating what you can see here on your screen, right? The relationship between the hardware, as we know there's some Wi-Fi boosters sometimes in play, getting you back to the access point. Troubleshooting 101, tools. This shouldn't even have an S on it. Tool, that's all you need. If you own a smartphone, you are good to go, all right? If you wanted to have a hotspot, it's not a bad idea, but within your phone, everybody has that capability today. So short of hanging the controller, identifying the network, putting in the password, and crossing your fingers, when it doesn't connect and you call Alex in tech support, what he's going to have you do is pull out your smartphone to determine if it is hardware, controller, or the WLAN, the local area network. So first, we're going to talk about utilizing the smartphone to determine if it's hardware based, right? Did I get a defective controller? Well, we know that's not the case, right? So we'll show you how to prove it. What you're going to do is the hardware test consists of, and if you just follow the screen here, and I'll explain it, it should go slow enough. I did a little screen recording from my smartphone earlier today. You want to go ahead and open up the settings feature on your phone and just kind of follow along as I'll describe what the screen's doing. So first thing you do, go into your settings on your smartphone, look for personal hotspot. When you see that, you want to touch on it and then activate the hotspot, turning it on, right? And you can see my passwords there as well. What that does is, just like a regular hotspot that you would utilize just to get your hardware to the internet, you're turning your cell phone into that exact device. Sometimes there's an additional step with your cell provider. Even though you have that hotspot on your smartphone, you may not have that feature activated. So look into that, but most do. I've ran into very few that did not, but I want to at least make mention of it. So now your smartphone's being utilized to broadcast a Wi-Fi signal that we're going to go through and connect the hardware, the controller, to directly to see if it'll connect to your phone. Because if it does, then we know the hardware is intact and there's no issue. So once you toggle on the hotspot feature on your mobile device, and I'm going to pound you on this the entire presentation, support.hydrawise.com is where all this information can be found, right? Don't wait 15 minutes on the phone to talk to Alex Midsummer. Even though he likes you, he wants to hear from you, he's got 50 people in the hopper waiting to talk to him. Okay, you want to get in, out, and on to the next one. So if you go to the support page, you can type in network connection or switching access point, right? And you're going to see this screen. I took this. This is an actual screenshot from the support page. So what you need to do is, from the front page, from the front screen, you want to go to settings right here. And when you click on that, it'll have an option, for wireless. And when you click on wireless settings, you're going to see this screen down here. What you want to do is tap right here where it says change wireless access point. It'll show the name of the network you are attempting to connect to. And if you tap on it, it'll allow you then to choose a new network, meaning your smartphone. So with my smartphone, it's called K Battistoni. So that's what pops up. And then, as you know, when I toggled on the hotspot, it showed my password. Now everybody knows it. Well, it doesn't mean anything unless you're standing within hotspot range. You can't use my Wi-Fi, so it's not a big deal. But that's where you implement in that information. And at that point, if it connects all the way through, then we know our hardware is good to go. It's not a hardware issue, all right? So when in doubt, hotspot. That's the mantra in text service with Hydrawise phone calls. If you don't know, hotspot. First thing you want to do, that'll tell you, and we'll figure out once we know what the issue is, how to get whole. So the other way with your smartphone as well is the local area network good to go? Easy enough test to conduct as well, right? So again, just utilizing your smartphone, what you're going to do is you're going to conduct a WLAN test. What does WLAN stand for? Wireless Local Area Network. So from the front screen, if you follow along again, what we're going to do is go back into your settings. If you see here, I'll talk you through it as it happens. And when you go into your settings, you're going to toggle on the Wi-Fi feature on your mobile phone. When you do that, you want to look for that same network of the homeowners, right? So mine auto-connected because I was at home, but you'll see here in a moment, I want to find FBI 2.4. I tap on it. It'll prompt you to put the same password in that you utilized on the hardware, right? And then in doing so, once you put in that password, you click join. From that point, you could go on the web, browse around, see if it works. Or in this case, what I did is I opened up the Hydrawise application and I began to navigate around and change some things to see if it works. So basically, utilizing any mechanism on your phone that requires Wi-Fi connectivity. So just doing an internet browse or going through your Hydrawise account on your smartphone. If you connect to it, you are connected to their local area network and it's actually working, right? So just with having your smartphone, whether you're using the hotspot feature or the Wi-Fi feature with their SSID, right, their network name and their password, we can determine WLAN's working, hardware's working, right? Makes sense for everybody so far? It's It's not complicated stuff. It's super simple. You can conduct both these tests in less time that you'll wait on hold during peak summer to talk to tech services. And don't forget the Hydrawise support page. Now, what happens when I can connect my phone, no problem, and I'm surfing the web, and I use the hotspot and the hardware is good? What else could potentially be wrong? This is a skip step that you don't want to skip on every single one you connect, right? So when this is resting face for a Hydrawise controller, which we went over in a previous webinar, and you can see down here where my cursor is, that's a visual indication of the signal strength from the access point. So simple test you want to do with every installation is click on the status tab. Once you do that, you're going to see this screen, and you want to click on controller status. When you click on controller status, this is exactly what you'll see without the cartoon imagery. But I brought that in there because I want to clearly explain what it represents, right? So on the right-hand side in the middle, it says uptime. That is a representation of connectivity to the local area network, to the router, right? And up in the upper left-hand corner there, you see server status. If server status says connected or okay, that's telling you that it's connected all the way through to the internet. Now, the cases that I've been involved in, and Alex was on the phone with me for them, is I've had situations last summer, a fair amount of them, not a ton, but you guys, again, you only call Kevin and I or Alex when you have problems. You don't call us for the high fives. So if you're not connected server status, you're connected to uptime, you were able to get on with your smartphone, surf the web on their Wi-Fi, and you were able to hotspot the hardware so you know they're both good. What else could it possibly be? It could be a security measure in play, right, where you have connection uptime but not server status. Now, how do you address it and how do you look professional? That's where we're going from here, but we're going to do it in a fun way, right? So the way I like to go through this, and this is probably a good time for me to pause and just ask the guys, hey, guys, you ever in your youth, Anthony, out in Australia, you ever go to a discotheque or a nightclub, something like that? Anthony, is that a no comment?
Yeah,
No comment.
no, I did. I've got history.
You know, maybe it was the gin mill or honky tonk, right? Not everybody, I'm sure. Kev,
Hey, come on, not that old.
That's what got sent you to Australia, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's why I'm here.
Kev, you're a stone throw from Manhattan. You can't tell me you never went to a nightclub.
More than once, yep.
More than once. Greg, you don't even have to answer. I know for you. And Alex, I partied with you, buddy. No need to answer there either. So if you think about it, Hydrawise, the internet, is kind of like that nightclub on the left-hand side of the screen, right? And consider yourself the Pro C Hydrawise on the right-hand side. And the modem router there, I like to say, hey, when you're walking in one of those clubs, at least this is my personal experience. Again, I'm not that aesthetically pleasing. So when I went to enter one of these fine establishments in my youth, typically I was greeted by a guy at the door that said, where do you think you're going, right? There was a line. I wasn't on the list. Now, in this image here, it represents the modem and the router. But for me, the way I navigated my way past this guy is I'd utilize something called the Chicago handshake. I'm guessing Kevin in New York, something similar. That's where you would wad up a $50 bill really tightly and place it in the palm of your hand and give him the old palm press. He would nod his head and then, of course, let me go by, right? And then you're to the internet. And as you can see from this image, that is a 19-year-old Kevin in the middle. Look at hair on that guy. And don't ask about the shirt. It's rubber, man. I was 19. You know, you just get it. But you see what this industry does do. I don't have those curly locks like that picture shows, right? Now, in the world of Wi-Fi connectivity, that palm press, that Chicago or New York handshake comes in the form of something we refer to as a MAC address, okay? Now, I'm going to explain to you what a MAC address is. A MAC address, first, the acronym stands for Media Access Control, okay? If you think about it, it's a combination of two different numbers, and we're going to explain what those two different numbers are. So the beginning of it is actually the Hydrawise unique ID number, and it's assigned by hardware. So in other words, that's going to be, if you're using an HCC controller, it's going to be that same 4-digit combination for every single HCC you install. And we actually use only 2 different unique IDs for all 5 pieces of hardware. And in the next screen, we'll show you which ones use which. But the second portion of that MAC address is nothing more than the controller's serial number, right? So I tell you this because sometimes there are security measures on routers, or sometimes there are firewalls I've run into on commercial properties or campuses that even though you identify the network, you put in the password, it'll let you connect to the router, but it won't let you go all the way through to the internet because of a security measure in play. So if you want to look really professional, this is where knowing if you're don't have server status, you're going to jot down F8, F0 in the serial number and tell your customer, hey, here's the MAC address for the hardware I installed. We're connected to your router, but there's a security measure in play. You're going to want to get a hold of your IT specialist and give that MAC address permission to go all the way through. And I apologize, I forgot we're going to be using some geek terms, tech geek terms, so let me put my disguise on. It worked last week. None of the geeks got a hold of me, although I was kind of waiting in my driveway looking for a fight. Nobody showed. So moving along real quick, Hydrawise support, again, .com. If you simply were to type in Wi-Fi specifications, this screen will pop up. On here, you'll notice where the arrow's at, it says MAC address if needed. Now I'm going to blow it up because it's small print and nobody can see it, right? So here are the MAC addresses for the it shows 4 pieces of hardware here. My next slide will show all 5. So the HC, which is probably, it's affectionately, Anthony, Kevin, I refer to it as the thermostat on an occasion. It's sweet. It's an awesome piece of hardware. It's just got smaller terminal strips and only indoor option only. The HCC, the PHC, the Pro C Hydrawise, and the X2 are what we'll call the hunterized version of the hardware. A little bit more robust cabinet, larger terminal strip, a couple extra bells and whistles. So for the HC, it's simply 001E as in echo, okay? And for everything else, it's Foxtrot 8, Foxtrot 0. So in this next screen, we'll make it really clear for everybody. You can see all 5 hardware offerings from Hunter Industries for the Hydrawise platform: X2, F8, F0, HC, 001 Echo, and everybody else is the same thing: Foxtrot 8, Foxtrot 0. Very simple, but if you're connected to Uptime and not to the server, write that MAC address down and proactively approach your client. You've identified the issue. Here's what it is. I've done this quite a few times the last year. Again, navigating by Alex, helping me out. We move along. So I'm going to explain to you what an IP address is, as we know in caveman terms, along with the MAC address. And the easiest analogy I could kind of come up with, because sometimes I hear that, hey, I need to assign an IP address, and what's the MAC address, and what's all that mean? So we're going to go to our good buddy Mike Honcho again, right? And he's going to open all the way up for us. And the name, if you look like you're going to send your buddy or anybody a piece of mail, the name, think about the name, someone's name, as the MAC address. It's who they are, right? It's their individuality. And think about the IP address as where they live, right? Or where they're currently residing, right? As if that makes sense. So that's the simplistic way, the caveman, irrigation guy, knuckle dragger that I am. That's the easiest way for me to remember it. So MAC address is who you are, and the IP address is where you are, okay? Because both of them exist in the Hydrawise hardware, and we'll show you visually what that looks like here in a moment. So there are 2 flavors of IP addresses, right? We have dynamic, okay? And a dynamic IP address is just automatically created on its own. And if you read, it says the device can have different IP addresses every time it connects to the network. And in some cases, an IP address can actually change while it's connected. So in other words, dynamic is witness protection program, right? You never know. The next morning you get a call and they say, hey, we got to move you, and you wake up and you're in a different spot. Whereas static, and this is where it comes into play, and it's good for you to know, you may encounter a scenario where the end user or the IT Geek Squad guys, he's peacocking again, and he says, hey, can I enter a static IP address into your hardware? And you want to look them straight away and say, yeah, you sure can, right? So a static IP, or what we call a fixed IP address, is an address that never changes. In other words, you bought this house, you're going to pay that 30-year mortgage, and you're retiring there. And someday the hearse is going to take you to down the street to Barrie, and that's when your wife's going to sell it and move to Florida. Okay. But in the meantime, you're staying at that address. So dynamic witness protection program, clock's going to do it automatically with the network. Static, IT guys getting involved. He wants to manually enter it. You're standing in front of the clock with him, and you want to look like you know what you're doing. Okay. That's where this comes into place. So you're looking at, again, the resting face for a Hydrawise touchscreen controller, with the exception of the X2. You want to tab on the settings button. After doing so, then you're going to tap on wireless on the left-hand side of the screen. Now, right here, you can see you've got that dynamic, use dynamic, DHCP, right? Or enter network settings manually. So if you're going to use a static IP address, or there's an IT professional or someone in the end user that wants to implement that, enter network setting manually. When you tap on that, it will pull up the screen and allow for you to manually enter that IP address. Okay, so you learned a little bit about a MAC address, that's who you are, and an IP address, and that's where you're currently at, right? Dynamic witness protection program, moving around. Static, manually entered into the hardware, and we're going to rock it till the wheels come off, right? So in closing, there you go. IP and MAC addressing for cavemen like myself. Not making fun of anybody until I make fun of myself first. Now, from here, we're going to transition into hotspots. And all I can tell you that is definitive information, and again, can be found at support.hydrawise.com. If you were to type in hotspots, this is what's going to pull up. And I get this question constantly. I'm sure all my colleagues that are on the call as well do the same thing. And people ask, how much data is it actually going to consume? Okay, it's between 100 and 500 megabytes a month. Okay, so if you're trying to get a data plan for a hotspot connection, don't go less than 500, or if it's one where they just charge you for what you use, that's fine. A lot of cell providers are going to charge you a set amount. Most of them, their data plans are like 2 gig, which is 4 times more than what you need, but we'll get into that. So consumption, important to know, 500 megabytes a month. On the screen right here, you're going to see on the left-hand side, Verizon Jetpack. That's the one I'm rolling with, but I've never utilized it with a controller for longer than a 2-week duration. So I used it more for testing. The ones on the left-hand side, hotspots of that nature, if I get any negative blowback at all on those, is occasionally they can get disconnected. And I will be honest with you, it cost me a fair amount of relationship equity with a newer customer over the last 2 years, because I had a lot of customers utilizing that style hotspot with a pretty good degree of success. In his application, he could never get them to stay connected for longer than 4 weeks. And at that 4-week mark, the hotspot actually had to be reset at site. Now, Kev, if you want to speak to the Netgear one, the Nighthawk in the middle, I understand you got a couple of customers using that.
Yep. Yeah, I've got some customers that tried a few different brands, few different models, just like you said, varying degree of success. I know one contractor in particular ran some trials where it brought in some different manufacturers, hotspots, just tried to keep them connected over the winter time just so he could check the connectivity of the different brands. But yeah, he settled on that one. And, the big sales pitch for that one is that it's meant to be powered 24/7 and have some sort of exposure to the elements as far as heat and stuff. Obviously protected in a controller cabinet or what have you, but he's had a lot of success in maintaining connection with those hotspots.
Nice. And you can see directly above that Netgear hotspot, that will show you, it's just an image of a SIM card. Some of these hotspots have what's called a virtual SIM, so there's no card to be placed inside of it. But what you need to acquire from your cell provider is a data plan and a SIM. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you could purchase a hotspot on Amazon and you could get a SIM card from a cell provider. You don't need to necessarily get the hotspot from them as well. Although we're going to shed some light on my coworker Spencer in Florida, who's had a good degree of success getting both the hotspot and the data plan from the same provider. But I'm going to let Anthony speak to that in a couple of slides because he's worked with them a little bit more firsthand. Now, in the upper right-hand corner is one that I've had some pretty good success with, and that is a modem hotspot working in conjunction with a router. So the picture you see, tap that center at the top, that's the SIM inside of that Netgear mobile mobile modem, and it's hardwired to a router. The one in the lower right-hand corner is referred to as a dongle, and Anthony is going to speak to those. They're really discreet, and he's had a ton of good success with those, so it'll give you some of the ins and outs. But I just want to kind of give you a flavoring of what they look like, right? And essentially, just like when we're toggling on the hotspot feature on our mobile, we're creating an access point for our hardware to get to the cloud. So where and when do we use these? Wherever you don't have a Wi-Fi signal, commercial properties, baseball fields, anywhere. Theoretically, if you can get a cell signal at the location of that controller, we can get you to the internet with some third-party product that you're looking at here. So this particular one was the one I was involved in. Again, I lost a fair amount of relationship equity, which I'm building back up with this guy. But here in this image, you can see two different sites that we use, that combo, that that Batman and Robin or Tan Man and Lotion Boy with the hotspot and the router itself. I will tell you that at these 4 sites, they've been up for the last 4 months without one drop off. Now, neither one of these devices has an internal battery, so they require constant power, much like the one Kevin spoke to in the Nighthawk, the Netgear one. Now, Anthony, do you want to chime in here and talk a little bit about some of the installation recommendations for the hotspot and some things that Spencer was doing?
Sure. So I guess the main thing when you're thinking about hotspots and you're not sure which one to use, first question to ask yourself is, does it have a battery? If it's got a battery, don't use it. The problem with the batteries is the power from the power supply charges the battery, and then the battery goes on and runs the device. Now, the problem is the moment that battery dies, which takes about 6 months, because it's on continual charge and it's not meant to be, it's going to die, and that Wi-Fi device or the hotspot is going to become useless. So you really do want to look at a device that doesn't have a battery. As Kevin mentioned, I like the USB style ones. Had a lot of success with those. We've got literally thousands of them working in controllers, and they're just a straight USB power supply. There you go. There's some pictures there of the USB powered up. So they work really well. We've got lots and lots of those dongle hotspots. If you just go back to that the Spencer slide, I'll just talk through that if you could. Thank you. So this is what one of our contractors down in Florida has been doing. In fact, it's taken up so popular, quite a few contractors are doing it. What he does is he goes to Home Depot, he purchases a waterproof box, and the box is on the right-hand side of the picture there. He then goes and buys a countdown timer, a dusk to dawn countdown timer, and the reason he buys that is because it comes with a power supply and a plug. He then cuts the plug off, so the connection piece, he wires that directly into the power supply of the controller. Okay, and then you can see he mounts that device down below where Kevin's pointing there. So he mounts it below the controller. Now all of a sudden we've got a power outlet down below the controller. He then plugs in a power supply and a USB device, hotspot device, and he's now got a Wi-Fi on site, and it's a nice, neat installation. It's, as you can see, they're pretty neat installations, and it looks good. He's got power and he's got a hotspot. Okay. Now he's been able to partner with Verizon, and in fact, it's proved out so popular that I think a lot of contractors are now starting to partner with Verizon. If you're not sure how to do that, you go to verizon.com and you go along, and one of the buttons on the website says partner. You click that and someone will ring you. Now he is paying $3.75 per month, which includes the hotspot and all the data use. All right, so it's got to be the cheapest deal going out there. It's $3.75 a month. He charges his customer $10 a month. He's just made $6.25 every month profit. He can't put these things in fast enough. Now he's been doing it for well over a year, and he's had very little trouble with them. So again, the key things are, if they've got a battery, don't use it. Don't use the ones with the battery. Battery doesn't do anything apart from keep a constant charge. Use a power supply. You can see that there's a power supply called a lamp USB. We can get some details on that later, but that is available. It comes with a power supply. There is another device, which is that device there, which has actually been taken off the market at the moment, so you can stop showing that one. But that one actually wires into the 24-volt supply of the controller. Now we have taken that off the market. It's not a Hunter product, but we're currently waiting for approvals. So we're waiting for CE approvals for the US market. But that's a really nice, neat device. But we do prefer you to take the power from the 110 side of the power transformer. So if you are going to take power, take it from that side. We much prefer that than taking it from the 24-volt side. So yeah, and that's why we use the countdown timer. So
good stuff.
Yeah, you good?
One thing, so I actually clicked on that Verizon link earlier today, put in a request for somebody to contact me. So whether it be tomorrow or one of our 2 webinars next week, when I have all the follow-up intel, because I painted them the whole picture of what most of you will want to do in this situation, we'll speak to it to a greater degree, and we'll share that contact information. Because as Anthony mentioned, our contractor in Florida is paying $375 a month. Initially, he had to buy the hotspot for $50, which is not bad. And $1.50 of that $375 a month goes to the data. And what I read from my coworker Spencer is the $1.75 of the $375 is actually paying Verizon to monitor the connectivity of that hotspot to the cloud, right? So that's really the Achilles heel, if any, with most hotspots, is intermittently they run the risk of dropping off. It may never happen for you. Again, you only call us with the bad ones, right? So, Kev, myself, a couple other guys, Alex, we all have a little bit of PTSD from that. But as we get deeper into it, you guys are showing us better solutions every time. So this is really about sharing it with, again, the intent, making it super easy for you to utilize our products. So I'm going to glide past that and get to the end point here where we're going to open it up for Q&A, and we'll let Greg dish those out.
Getting into the Q&A section.
Yes, sir.
We had a question regarding how do you connect? How do you connect these Wi-Fi hotspots? I know that there's the dongle version, and there's your typical, password and connection type Wi-Fi. So I don't know which one of you wants to answer that, but take it away.
I mean, how do you connect the controller to the device?
Yeah, to the hotspot.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be the same connection process as connecting a controller to any other network. You'd search for it in the available networks and enter in the password for it after you choose it. Right? Am I missing something?
Oh, you're spot on.
I think that's spot on.
It's just an available network that Hydrawise is going to pick up. The controller is going to pick up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing is if you are looking for a power supply for your USB hotspots, just Google, and I just did it and it came straight up. USB lamp outlet. Okay. And there's a YouTube clip on how you can set up the devices. They're not very hard. It is pretty simple to do. So if you are concerned about that, just YouTube it. Do what we all do. That's how we're all smart and how we're able to wear glasses now, because we all YouTube stuff.
Indeed. What else we
Alrighty.
got?
So let me ask you this: if you do have a battery operated one, which you mentioned not to use there, Anthony.
Yep.
If you do and it becomes disconnected, does irrigation stop or will it continue?
The irrigation will continue. So it depends. Let me clarify that. Okay, if halfway through the irrigation cycle we lose the internet connection, whether it's a hotspot or just a normal internet Wi-Fi, the irrigation will just keep running. Okay, it doesn't worry about it. What it'll do is it'll try and reconnect. Okay, so the controller, whilst it's irrigating, will continue to try and reconnect back to the Wi-Fi. Okay, if it can't after 6 hours, and assuming there's no irrigation, the controller will shut itself down, do a full reboot, and then come back online and try and reconnect again. So the controller will continually try and reboot itself or restart, reconnect. So it does two types of reconnects. One is a Wi-Fi reconnect where it doesn't shut the controller down, it just keeps trying to reconnect using Wi-Fi. The other one is a full shutdown. It'll actually shut the whole computer down, a whole controller down, and completely reboot it. Think of it like your computer. Sometimes, something goes wrong and you just got to do a restart. You just know that if you turn it off, turn it back on again, everything will be fresh. That's exactly what the controller does. It does that after 6 hours, assuming it's not irrigating. If it's irrigating, it's just going to keep irrigating. It won't shut down until it can.
All right, I think that answers it.
Yep.
Good job. Another question, and this was regarding the MAC address that you shared earlier, Kevin. Are IT people hesitant to use our MAC address, and why?
Go ahead. I'm going to let the experts weigh in. Alex, Anthony, Kev.
I guess it depends who the experts are. And typically, if you're talking about some IT guy who, all he spends his whole life thinking the world's going to hack into his university, yeah, they are hesitant about letting you connect to the network, and that's okay. If a customer doesn't want you to use their network, it's no good giving them the MAC address and all that sort of stuff. If they don't want you to, they're not going to let you. Right? Put in a hotspot and call it good, and charge them $10 a month or $15 a month every month for connection. Just walk right past that IT guy and go, you know what, I'm going to put in my own solution in here, and it's going to be good. They are hesitant about it, and the reason they're hesitant about it is particularly schools, universities, police stations, fire brigade, all of the first responder groups. They're worried about being hacked. Okay, they don't want people coming into their network, and they think that the more devices they have connected to the network, the greater hack threat they have. Now, Hydrawise is pretty safe. We actually post a security statement. If you want to ever see it, just go to our support at hydrawise.com. And you can search for security statement, and you'll see our security statement there that says we have independent testing that goes out and tries to hack into Hydrawise, and it's pretty safe. We are pretty comfortable about that. But some people just don't want you to do it, and that's okay. put a hotspot in, and then we're not touching their network at all. Okay. Different school districts, different universities have different rules. Some universities let us in, some don't. It's kind of like you ask the question, depending on the answer, you come up with another solution if it's not going to work for them. So.
Yeah, great question, because and it's for that very reason that we included hotspots in the presentation about connectivity issues and security, because it's the easy button in those scenarios.
Absolutely. No good fighting, just move on and put a hotspot in and charge them $10 a month. And if you're clever and you've done a deal with Verizon, you're now making $6 a month.
Yeah, I mean, but keep in mind, by the way, having said that,
fair enough. Sounds like a good deal.
We have Hydrawise in plenty of school districts, plenty of colleges that have it up on their network with no problem. I've also put way early on, I put a Hydrawise in one of our distributor branches, and it was connecting to the network, but it wasn't passing information back and forth. And I dealt with I knew the IT guy there, so I dealt with him, and that MAC address is just all he needed to allow the Hydrawise controller to pass information back and forth onto the network. So it's definitely a usable thing, and that's how they're going to allow that device to communicate.
Yeah. The idea of the MAC address really is if they let you connect, but you can't, there's something stopping it. That MAC address is going to allow for that controller to get to the internet. Where they say don't connect to our network, then you use a hotspot. And with the hotspots, you won't need a MAC address. So yeah, just to break it down to simplicity, if they let you connect to their network, but you can't get Hydrawise through, then the MAC address is going to be your friend, the MAC address and the IP address. Okay. If they won't let you connect to their network, then that's when you go with a hotspot. Okay.
Right on.
Okay, and would you guys be at all opposed to anybody who's having issues with MAC address or connecting with one of those networks and an IT person to give you a call? I know your numbers are here, and your emails are here if they wanted to follow up with you and get some
Look,
guidance on the right way to go.
Yeah, the easiest way to get any help with that is just send an email to support@hydrawise.com. Okay, we've got that way. It doesn't have to be any one of us that answers it, but someone's going to answer it. One of our tech service guys will answer that. And you've got 18 hours of tech service support every day. So you're much better off sending it to support@hydrawise.com rather than trying to ring us. And, you ring me at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm not likely to answer your call.
Look, I just to throw my 2 cents in also, a really good way to approach this, I think, as a contractor, if you want to sell a big university or whatever, is because it is at times very difficult to nail an IT guy down to speak with you when you want to speak with him. So give him a controller. Give him a controller and get on his calendar and just say, all right, next Wednesday at 2 o'clock, we'll talk. Here's a controller, connect it to your network, do what you got to do, and then let's get on a call and talk MAC addresses and whatever else you need in order to get that controller on where we're communicating to and from it.
Right on.
I can see his mouth moving, but I can't hear him.
Sounds like I'm at home.
No, Greg's gone.
Greg, are you with us? Q&A, my friend. All right. Let's see if he can.
Got to check Greg's MAC address.
Greg, did we lose you? Apologize to everyone for that. If you can, let's take a look here in the chat box. See if we can get any questions. I know he had some. We're about to get started. Stay tuned. So I apologize for the drop off. If you did not get your questions answered today, unless Greg chimes back in before we sign off, we'll be back on tomorrow. And with the three of us here, we all have good internet connections. We're going to hope Greg gets his MAC address and his internet figured out by tomorrow. But tomorrow, what we're going to do is very little PowerPoint, very little words coming out of my mouth, which I'm sure you'll all be happy about. Anthony Long and Kevin Lewis are going to take over live demo, deep dive of advanced contractor features. Okay, so that's going to fill the entire hour. Is they're going to take you deep into the woods on kicking the tires of what this software can do, far beyond the scope of what probably a lot of you are utilizing it for today. That will be at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Central, and 1 p.m. Pacific. Okay. We hope you guys tune in tomorrow. We hope you found some value in this today. Kev, why don't you put a ribbon on it for us and sign us out?
Yeah, just thank everybody for tuning in. Hope you found something interesting here, and definitely pass it along to coworkers and other people, because Kevin's done a great job of dicing this thing up into digestible pieces, and the reason he's come up with these pieces is because this is what we get asked all the time. So these seminars, these webinars are going to be helpful for people going forward. So definitely pass it along. We appreciate your time, and I guess we'll see you tomorrow.